Well, my most recent review was for the film Timber Queen from 1944, and that had me curious to see what other films that star Richard Arlen had been in. And sure enough, while looking through his movies, I saw that he starred in another film called Silver City. And what a find this was, as it actually stars my old hero Edmond O'Brien, and also has Yvonne De Carlo, Lily Munster. And if that wasn't enough, it's even got Edgar Buchanan, Uncle Joe of Petticoat Junction. Wow, who could ask for more? Well, I had to check this one out. The story here is that Edmond O'Brien plays a mining engineer who tries to pull a fast one and rip off a mining company that he works for. But after leaving town in humiliation, wouldn't you know it, his past catches up with him. And of course, beautiful women are falling for him all over the place. There's plenty of action, romance, gun shootouts, and bar fights. You're in for a treat with this one. It's a really fun Western. I'll summarize the film, spoiler-free, and then give some closing thoughts. Well, the film opens up, and we have the mining company president, Charlie Storrs, played by actor Richard Arlen, and he's there working with his engineer, Larkin Moffat, played by Edmond O'Brien. Now, they're talking about an assay report that has come back. It has examined a mine, and it's really rich with resources when, wouldn't you know it, two ne'er-do-wells show up and hold them up. And they don't just want money, but they want that report. Now, Larkin seems a little bit suspicious during this holdup. Now, the thugs leave. Larkin pursues after them. There's an exciting chase, and it takes place on a logging train. And Larkin manages to get the bag back, and he makes this exciting dive into a river to get away. Well, a little bit later, we see Charlie. He's at dinner. Now, he's really glum. He feels like he's been betrayed by his old friend Larkin, that Larkin was in on the robbery and got away with that assay report. He's there with his gorgeous wife, Josephine, played by actress Casey Rogers. I remember her from Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, who, met with the real terrible demise in the film. But anyhow, Charlie will see to it that Larkin never gets another chance to work. And sure enough, he sets to work writing strongly worded letters and sending them out to all the various companies. That'll show Larkin. Well, sure enough, Larkin isn't able to get a job anywhere. He keeps getting the boot wherever he goes. So finally, he opens his own assay office in Silver City. Now, one day, he reports to the character Candace Surency, played by actress Yvonne De Carlo, that the mine sample that she had given him to check out is actually loaded with silver. So she's excited. She lets her dad know. This is the character Dutch, played by Edgar Buchanan of Petticoat Junction fame. So this is great news for them, of course. Now, once her dad leaves, Candace confronts Larkin alone to find out what his interest is in all of this, but he remains quiet. Remember, he's got a sketchy background. And she opens up and confesses that her dad leases the mine, the Big J, and they have only 12 days to get the material out before the mining rights will revert back to the owner, the greedy R.R. Jarbo, played here by legendary actor Barry Fitzgerald. Now, Candace asks Larkin to help her mine the ore, but Larkin doesn't really want to get involved. He doesn't say why, but just gives her some advice and guidance on how to do it, how to keep things secret, and so on. He can't jump into this because if people find out who he is, they'll want to get rid of him again. So word of this mine gets around town, and men are gathered up to go to work. Now, Larkin remains all quiet about it as he sits at a bar. Now, the character Bill Taff, played by actor Michael Moore, saddles up next to Larkin to talk to him, to try to learn a little bit more about what's going on. He's sort of the local gunslinger character. Now, a foreman tries to get volunteers to work the mine, but one of the guys is clearly pickled out of his mind, and he starts a fight. This is the character Arnie, played by John Dirks, who, to me, clearly resembles Sad-Eyed Joe from Knott's Berry Farm and Too Obscure? Anyhow, he clobbers the foreman, so Larkin steps in to fight and clubs him with a rock. Larkin goes to visit with Candace and her dad. They really want his help so bad, but he still refuses and leaves. The whole mysterious past thing. He goes to confront Arnie, and he finds out that Bill Taff hired him to beat up Spence. Well, the next day, Charlie and Josephine arrive in Silver City. Larkin spots them from a distance and realizes he needs to be careful not to be seen by them. So later at his office, R.R. Jarboe shows up along with that sketchy Bill Taft character. So apparently the two of them are working together. Now they try to bribe him into turning over the assay report, but he's not having any of it and he refuses. And he tells that Bill character to keep away. He goes off to give Candace a warning about these characters and tells her that he's leaving town, much to her disappointment. So the next day at the local hotel, Candace meets Charlie, and he wants to know more about this mining operation. He doesn't get much information, so he goes to visit Jarboe, and they both go to the assay office. Now at this point, Larkin wants to get out of town. He's not there. He's locked it up. But when Charlie hears the name, he reveals to them who he actually was and says, yeah, Larkin was actually a crook. Charlie goes over the notes in his office that were left behind and determines that the mine that these Surencies have, it's worth a lot of money. Bill goes a little loopy and starts smashing up things. There's a lot of smashing up stuff in this movie. Well, Candace goes to find Larkin and finds him in another town. And after updating him and telling him about Charlie showing up and how his office was smashed, she pleads again for his help. Come on, man, how can you turn down Yvonne De Carlo? But Larkin decides to do it. He goes back to town again. Goes in and he smashes up Jarboe's office. And he runs into Josephine. And from the soft music, we can tell that these two used to be a thing long ago. Now, Jarboe shows up with his guys and Charlie, and a fist fight breaks out. But Candace arrives in time with a gun to make sure that it's a fair fight. Bill and Larkin go at it, and finally he beats the baddies enough that they all run off. Well, Larkin is back in town, and he goes to work on the mines. And Candace shows up a little later with some lunch. She seems to have an interest in the big guy as well. You know, women always fall hard for Edmond O'Brien. Well, Charlie shows up with permission to see the mine, and they head into what looks like a very Hollywood set mine, but it's all good. Larkin spends some time with Candace and her dad, and while she prepares food, he opens up that yes, he had almost married Josephine, but he saw that she was a very negative influence, and he would have cheated and stolen for her and all of that stuff. But Josephine, it would seem, still might have an interest in Larkin. Well, back in town, it turns out that all of Larkin's men haven't been working. Someone, likely that Jarboe character, has given them all free booze, so they're all wasted. And he gets a wagon ready, as well as a bunch of wooden bats, and then he heads into the bar. Oh, he's up to something, that sneaky one. Larkin tricks the guys into having a big old bar fight, and you guessed it, more mass destruction. Larkin finally manages to get all of the drunken goofballs into his wagon, and he heads off to bring them to work. Now Charlie, meanwhile, heads back to his hotel room, and Josephine seems really bored to be there. She leaves and just happens to run into Larkin, and they take a walk together to his office. Now while he's cleaning up things, she seems to get all catty about Candace and maybe a little too friendly with Larkin, but he's just not interested. Well, later, a couple ne'er-do-wells attempt to dynamite the mine, but Larkin manages to stop them in time. And then that night, Bill and his guys attempt to destroy the ore chute. Man, what a jerk. Well, Larkin shows up with some of his men, and you guessed it, another big fist fight breaks out. Bill gets to the chute. He does manage to destroy it, but the fight soon ends. Well, they start to rebuild it, but that no-good Jarboe schemes with Bill, and now they're going to kill Larkin. They plan to set up a scheme that they tell Charlie that they saw his wife, Josephine, coming out of Larkin's office earlier, and they send an anonymous note telling him to go to a spot near the Surencies' place to discuss the matter. But they pay that no-good Arnie character from earlier to do the deed. He's going to be the one to shoot Larkin. And then they'll frame Charlie. Well, Larkin is at Candace's place, and he explains that he is done with Josephine, and then he gives her some Edmond O'Brien sugar. "Oh, Larkin, I tried not to love you," she says. But this moment is interrupted as Larkin hears a noise outside. It's that sneaky Arnie. Well, Larkin pursues after him and shoots at him, and he gets away. Now, later at the hotel, Josephine accuses Charlie of trying to kill Larkin, and Charlie, thinking she's still got a thing for him, wants her out of town. So we're nearing the end of the film, and I don't want to give much more away as everything wraps up. Will Larkin catch up to that pesky Arnie and bring justice to those sneaky characters Bill and Jarbo? Will he go back to Josephine? Or does his heart belong to Candace? And what would Uncle Joe, moving kinda slow, be like as a father-in-law? I wonder. Well, you need to watch this film for yourself to find out. So let me offer some closing thoughts here. Silver City was released in 1951, and it was directed by Byron Haskin. He also directed The War of the Worlds in 1953. I really should review that for the channel. That's a fun movie. It was produced by Nat Holt, and as mentioned, had a number of big stars associated with it. Now my thoughts on the film. Timber City was an enjoyable, action-packed Western, had lots of big fights, some chases, a little romance, maybe not too heavy on story. And in watching it, there were a few things in the plot that maybe felt a little rushed or dismissed. I mean, the fact that the film opens up and Larkin is pretty much ripping off his partner sort of puts a shade on him from the beginning. And you're wondering if maybe ultimately he was aiming to rip off the Surencies as well, but no, I guess that one-time crime was sort of water under the bridge, I guess. He's moved on from crime and everything is great now. It also felt like a story with a lot of moving parts. I mean, there's Edmond O'Brien's romance, there's the old flame from the past, there's all of these various characters who seem to want to sabotage the mines and so on. But I will say it does all wrap up nicely by the end of the film. Edmond O'Brien, as usual, is great in the lead. I always point out that I really admire his everyman quality. He's not an overly glamorous actor or anything like that. He's just kind of a likable, doughy guy you can believe in. I can relate to him. And I liked his romance in the film with the lovely Yvonne De Carlo, which, from the beginning when they meet each other, you knew it was going to be a thing, as her character was very sweet and supportive of the guy, and didn't seem too concerned about his past shenanigans. I also thought it was neat seeing Barry Fitzgerald again. He's a legendary character actor. I remember him from films like Tarzan's Secret Treasure, which I'll probably be reviewing soon on the channel. He made for a good, sneaky nemesis for the film. Now, Michael Moore as a gunslinger Taff was all right, but I never really saw him as much of a threatening opponent to O'Brien's character. He was more just kind of an annoyance to him in the film. Now, Casey Rogers as Josephine, it was nice to see her again. But as mentioned before, having seen Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train quite a few times, I was distracted because I was just reminded of her character from that film. I would see her in this movie and think, if she had the thick glasses on, I could see her back trying to be mean to Farley Granger again. So that's the problem, I guess, is when you so closely associate one actor with a particular role that it's hard to see them in other things. It's like seeing Chris Reeve in anything other than Superman. You know what I'm talking about? Well, anyhow, this was a beautifully made film with plenty of sequences out in the country. I love seeing the old lumber trains, the cozy western ghost town, and I particularly like the footage around the lumber mill near the end of the film. There's a great chase scene that takes place there, and quite a stunt that Edmond O'Brien's stunt double takes at this point. Ouch! And as mentioned, there's a lot of fist fights, bar fights, and a lot of stuff getting smashed up. Here's a quick recap of some of the mass destruction of the film. And I do have to admit, some of the fight scenes could be a little cheesy, with fists seemingly missing by a mile, but whatever. And I don't watch many color films on this channel, and seeing an early Technicolor Western like this, it did make me reflect for a minute. It kind of reminded me of my grandmother watching Bonanza. In fact, the film to me just sort of had that comfortable look and feel and the sound of an old TV Western. So if you enjoy old shows like that, I think you'll like this one. So let me close this review. Silver City came out in 1951, and it was an enjoyable Western. Edmond O'Brien, Yvonne De Carlo, and Barry Fitzgerald, they were all excellent in their various roles. There's Lots of action, fighting, things getting smashed up, and a cute little romance as well. This was a good Western, and it's worth checking out.